The dropship was burning when it fell from the sky. He should have died on impact. Instead, he opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by alien soldiers, their spears poised to end him. But before the killing blow fell, she stepped forward, their queen, battle-worn and fierce, her armor dented and her crown scorched by fire. In front of her warriors, she placed a hand on his chest and spoke words he didn't understand. Yet somehow he knew she'd just claimed him. Not as a prisoner, not as a trophy, but as something far more dangerous, her mate. And in a war-torn world where humans weren't meant to survive, that single choice would change the fate of two species forever. The skies above Carthor burned red with the light of endless orbital bombardments. Alien warships screamed through the atmosphere, their weapons tearing open the earth and setting cities aflame. On the ground, the battlefield was a blur of smoke, shrapnel, and the thunder of marching war beasts. Humans weren't part of this war, at least, not until one human's ship was caught in the crossfire. Lieutenant Aaron Vance never saw the missile coming. 1 second, his small transport was on a clean route across the system. The next, alarms screamed and fire engulfed the cockpit. The hull split, gravity seized him, and the world became a spinning blur of sky and ground. The ship slammed into a ruined alien plaza, scattering debris like shrapnel through the bodies of soldiers locked in combat. His vision blurred, his lungs burned, and his ears rang with 1,000 voices, none speaking his language. Pinned under twisted metal, bleeding from a gash on his forehead, Aaron could barely move. Alien troops, massive, armored, with faces like carved stone, closed in on the wreckage. He ripped himself free, stumbling into the shattered streets, dodging beams of plasma fire. He scavenged for water, crawled through burning alleys, and hid among the rubble while the war raged above. Every sound was a threat, every shadow, a possible executioner. He was cornered at last, back pressed against the cracked wall of a palace ruin. Soldiers advanced, until a commanding voice cut through the chaos. She emerged from the smoke, tall, with skin like polished obsidian, her crown forged from the bones of fallen beasts, and her armor dented from battle. Her golden eyes locked onto his. To his shock, she crossed the kill line, stepping between him and her own warriors. She touched his chest, her hand steady over his racing heart, and spoke in a low, commanding tone. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Aaron was taken to her war tent, a massive black canopy adorned with banners and guarded by warriors who never looked away. Inside, alien servants brought him food that looked like molten metal and water laced with bitter herbs. He didn't understand their customs, kneeling before her, the meaning of the armor marks on her skin, the way she addressed him with clipped, formal speech. Every move he made risked offense. And yet, she watched him with something between curiosity and possession. Her name was Queen Soraka, ruler of the last free stronghold in the north. By taking him, she had broken her council's laws, bringing an outsider into their sacred war hall. Her advisors whispered that he was a spy, a curse, a weakness. Her enemies saw him as proof she had lost her mind. The pressure was mounting, and Aaron could see in her eyes that she was gambling everything by keeping him alive. Because he didn't know their world, she assigned him a place at her side, not as a guest, but as a claimed one. In their culture, that meant no one could touch him but her. They ate at the same table, traveled together, and slept in the same guarded chamber, though the barrier of language and mistrust kept them apart at first. Yet each night, in the glow of the fire, he caught her studying him, as though she were trying to read a book she couldn't yet understand. Slowly, gestures replaced words. He offered her a crude repair to her battle-scarred gauntlet. She gave him a necklace carved from the crest of a fallen enemy. He learned to read her expressions, the twitch of her lip when she was amused, the steel in her gaze when she was challenged. And one night, as the sound of distant artillery rolled over the hills, she reached for his hand under the table, holding it as if to say, "We're not alone in this war anymore." They trained together, her teaching him to wield their curved war blades, him showing her how to aim with human rifles. He saved her from an assassin's strike in the council chamber. She shielded him from her own guards when his temper flared at being called her property. Each act chipped away at the wall between them, replacing fear with an unspoken alliance. But trust was fragile. Late one night, Aaron overheard her advisors plotting to deliver him to the enemy in exchange for peace. When he confronted her, the fury in her eyes was real, but so was the hurt. She swore it was not her doing, that her own court sought to use him as a bargaining piece. For the first time, Aaron wondered if staying by her side might get them both killed. The betrayal came to a head during the siege of the Black Gate. Enemy war beasts crashed through the outer defenses, their riders cutting down warriors in droves. The sky was alive with tracer fire and burning wreckage. Aaron fought in the mud beside her, his rifle spitting light into the darkness, while she cleaved through enemy ranks with her war spear. The ground shook beneath them, but neither retreated. In the quiet after the battle, Soraka sat beside him, her armor dented and streaked with blood. She spoke halting words in broken human language. I keep you, because you are mine. Not in the sense of ownership, but in the way someone claims the thing they cannot bear to lose. For the first time, he let himself believe it. When enemy assassins breached the inner fortress, Aaron was taken, beaten, and dragged toward the enemy camp. Soraka led the charge to recover him, riding into enemy lines like a blade of fire, cutting down anyone who stood in her way. She freed him herself, lifting him from the ground with blood on her hands and fury in her eyes. Their bond became political leverage. Together, they convinced her council to accept human allies, and Aaron opened communication with his own people to aid her cause. Human supply drops fell across her war-torn kingdom, and alien warriors began training alongside human soldiers. The war was far from over, but in the final scene, Aaron and Soraka stood together on the palace balcony, watching the sunrise cut through the smoke. Around them, banners of both species flew side by side. Her hand rested in his, not as queen and captive, but as partners. And in that fragile, golden light, there was hope that the fire of their war might one day burn into peace.